afarensis, and the other species which preceded the Homo species. None of them exist today. Then there was a spate of Homos. We had the Homo ergaster, the Homo habilis, the Neanderthals, all of these, but none of them exist today, and we are the only species in the genus Homo to remain alive. Yes. Yeah, so there are various theories about origination of species. There are theories which say that they all originated around the Ethiopia, Kenya, Rift Valley, but there are other theories now which we have found that they did indeed originate in Australia, in Java, Sumatra, and other places also, right? And evolution started taking place, they dispersed. They are, so Homo sapiens, we are sitting here, all of us. The other one, the other species, well, they died. I mean, they got extinct as species go extinct, and of course, if we learn something from history, we know for sure that we are also going to go extinct at some point. But there's no hurry. And we're trying to hurry up that extinction by inducing climate change. So, and as humans evolved, humans occupied the spaces around the oceans, and we needed water for survival, liquid water. We are freshwater organisms, so we need fresh water. We are not a marine organism. And therefore, while we occupied the places around the sea, we were essentially looking at sources of fresh water, and sources of fresh water we found on the surface mainly, because there was no digging and there were no bore wells at that time. KSB and Kirloskar were yet to come up, so there were no pumps to extract the water, and we were relying mainly on the surface water. And as we relied on the surface water, we went into a stage where we kind of hunted and gathered for a very long time in our history. We were hunting, gathering. Even today, you have communities which are hunting, gathering. Which one? Tribals. Do you know any name? Okay, well, I don't know. Thanks for that. So, yeah, there are indeed many tribes in the Amazon and Brazil which are here. But even in India, you have the Pasipardis, you have the Bills, the Gonds, the Santals, the Mundas. So many other tribes are tribal communities which still are into hunting and gathering. But as we moved on, hunting and gathering was a very laborious way of existence. Every day morning you had to go out and find food for yourself and your family, come back. There was no storage of food, nothing. Again, next day morning you've got to go out and do the same thing. And this was not a life that you would really like to kind of say that it's an leisurely life. It was an enjoyable life, but not a very leisurely life. And at some point of time, we stumbled upon some few species which were very benign to us. And from that point onward became our pastoral journey where we domesticated animals. And the domestication of animals gave us a lot of advantages. The first major advantage is we actually now had a storage of food. Now we could kill the animal maybe 6 months later, and we had a stock, we could see our food which was going to last us for a very long time. And domestication proved mighty successful, and from then on our journey of conquering nature started. We started killing the species which were predating upon the domesticated animals. Even if they were not tasty, even if they were not in our food, we started killing them. And we started killing trees. The reason why we started doing that is because most of the domesticated animals are ruminants. They browse or they graze, and they need leaves, they need grass, and for food you cannot have shade. You need to start cutting trees and then allow the grasses to grow, allow the herbs to grow. All of that was happening. So as domestication started flourishing, so did our conquest on nature. This started increasing. At one point of time, we went into another form of a lifestyle, so to say, and that was when we discovered the domestication of flora, which is now called as agriculture or farming. We realized that there are a few species of trees, vanaspati, which are very useful to us. And then we started cutting the trees which were not useful to us in the manner of speaking in terms of food. And we started growing the ones which were useful for us. And agriculture became the biggest assault on nature. Even today, agriculture is indeed one of the biggest assaults on nature. Right? Our food systems are changing the face of the earth in a spectacularly intense manner. Yes.
Then what should we
Yeah, we'll come to that. So, and agriculture, again, the species which were favorable for domestication were the freshwater species. So now we started moving from around the seas and oceans towards the river banks. And from then on, our relationship with water started changing. Like our relationship with nature started changing after pastoralism, our relationship with water started changing after agriculture. And water came to be looked at more as a resource. The reason is very simple. Agriculture produces that one thing on which the economy is founded upon. And that is?
What?
No. Agriculture produces what?
Food.
Food. But qualifier, adjective for food? Surplus. It creates so much surplus that you can't finish it off in one day. And that surplus was actually the precursor of wealth. If I have more surplus than Divyanshu, I'm richer than Divyanshu because I can exchange it with more stuff that I want than he can, and therefore I am able to create a larger house, maybe fountains, baths, all of that. I can create all of that. So surplus that agriculture gave us became the defining factor of how societies were going to divide later on the basis of economy. Not on basis of what you do, not on basis of where you are born, not on basis of race or skin color, but on the basis of wealth. And because the surplus food was the source of wealth, then that source of wealth was very closely linked to the amount of land you own. And for the first time in history, land, nature came in private ownership. Now we were locked to a piece of land. In hunting, gathering and pastoralism, we were nomadic. We were moving from one landscape to another. But in farming, we had to stay on. From that point of time, Satbara Uttara became very important. Who owns that piece of land? That becomes the deciding. So the more land I own, the richer I get. And obviously those who started increasing their wealth started occupying the banks of the rivers, because fresh water was the most important thing, right? And as they started occupying that, then those peasants who were in the hinterland were the ones who were the smaller land ownership. And then water had to be transported from the rivers onto the hinterland. And water became the most important reason why we have what we today call as governance. Water needed to be administered. There was a limited supply of fresh water, and there was an unlimited demand of fresh water as everybody went into agriculture. Well, when I'm saying everybody, it's not really everybody, but most of the population turned into agriculture. And then water had to be monitored, the supply, the demand had to be monitored, and then you had administration, then you had governance, then you had cities, then you had taxes, then you had wealth, then you had public spaces. All of that came after agricultural surplus came into existence. And one of the first engineering technologies to be developed by humankind was hydraulic engineering. Because water had to be transported, water had to be stored, water had to be metered, water had to be given, distributed. All of these things needed us to improve our skills of hydrology, of irrigation, of water distribution. All of these kind of things happened. And now, by now you would have realized that rivers are no longer rivers, but they are a source of economic wealth. Because they are the reasons why we are going to create the surplus. They are the reasons why we are going to administer that piece of land. They are the reason why we will be able to control a population and a community there. So from that point of time, our relationship with fresh water especially started changing dramatically.
Is there like a actual correlation between